This is my 2004 Chevy Tahoe. When I bought it last year, I was looking for a vehicle that can handle snow and ice and maybe occasional towing. So a 4x4 SUV fit that role pretty perfectly. However, what I didn't expect is the Z71 package came with a very interesting surprise. I think I got more than I bargained for because the S in this SUV stands for big time sport. Let me elaborate. When I started driving it, I was fairly pleasantly surprised with how comfy the seats are and the overall space inside of it for a Chevy and for this this age of a vehicle. But on a smooth road, this thing was fine. However, when the road got bumpy, I started to notice that this thing will turn into a paint shaker. Well, not exactly, but I'm exaggerating. But the ride will definitely get a little bumpy, and they gave me a kind of almost like a flashbacks of how the 1974 Mini, yes, the original British Mini, was behaving when I was driving it. It would kind of get that happy little terrier bouncing off with the ball around the corners. Now translate that into something like this, something as big as this, and then you'll have pretty much a happy little elephant bouncing around. Now don't get me wrong, this thing was very stable even through the long sweepers, and it would never put a foot out, if you like. But then I started noticing a couple of things. Hey, hold on. It has a 5.7 liter V8 that is originated straight from a Corvette with a lot of horsepower up front, driving the rear wheels. It has adjustable front suspension, so you can adjust the height of the vehicle in the front depending on the surfaces of the road and your conditions. Unlimited slip differential. Flared wheel arches to accommodate larger 17-inch alloy wheels. Check. Aerodynamically formed roof spoilers. Check. Ground effects. Check. Vortex generator on the roof to keep the vehicle stable at higher speeds. Check. And finally, a gorgeous British racing green with a beautiful speck in it. Check. And to top that off, this is actually a hatchback. So what I think Chevy made was the American version of a Nürburgring car. Huh. Well, that'll explain things. Now, all jokes aside, I agree. Cooning around the racetrack with a vehicle that's set up for something like that, it's a huge fun. But driving something like that every day, that's another matter. So, of course, you would say you could adjust the front suspension because these are adjustable. You can actually soften them up. The problem is that will actually drop the front end a little bit more. And I don't know, can you tell this truck is actually biased? It's a little there's a little of that muscle car rake, if you like. So even if I drop the front suspension down to soften it up, it will actually worsen up the whole look. I actually like the way it sits right now. And the problem number two is that will do nothing for the rear suspension. So what I did, I went to the service book that previous owner kept, and that thing was really detailed. He was either a aviation mechanic or he was OCD like I am about maintaining stuff.
So he actually wrote down every single thing that he did with his truck, maintained it really, really meticulously. I couldn't find anything about shocks, and when I kind of took a look underneath the truck first time, what I discovered was set of really crusty, what it looked like original installation, and they're right here. And yeah, they are really crusty. This is what Midwest does to the exposed stuff. And you're probably gonna notice that this one is kind of looking a little wonky. Yeah, there's a reason for that. Now I did the old, compression test by hand, and these three actually were still performing relatively fine. Of course, that's far from scientific test. This one did not rebound whatsoever. I changed the shocks in September. Today is January. So for 3 months, this thing was sitting like that, not budging whatsoever. Yeah, so it was time. Now I'm not faulting the original installation because the truck had 130,000 miles. This is one from the rear, and this truck used to tow something, so I'm not faulting that. So that kind of prompted me. Okay, what I would like to do is get a set of new shocks for this thing. They're actually softer than stock, and that opened up a whole new can of worms. Alright, I'm gonna put you right there so you can kind of tag along. Alright, so the 2004 Tahoe is, thankfully, it's very easy to find the parts for. That's one of the reasons why I got it. So I'm gonna use Rock Auto catalog. I do not endorse these guys, nor I'm endorsed with them. This is just one of the vendors that I'm using from time to time for the parts. The reason I'm using them is because they have very nice layout for all the stuff that it's available for the most part for the Tahoe of this vintage. And the problem that I encountered where I was doing the research for which shock do they pull is not a single vendor, not a single manufacturer, not a single website will give you the actual specs for the shocks. So which basically means there is no scientific approach, there is no set of numbers to tell you how the shocks is actually behaving. So there is no such thing as I guess independent lab findings or anything like that you can say this shock is comfy, this shock is not comfy, or this shock is firm, this shock is progressive, this shock is digressive in its operation. It's really confusing, and there is no way for you to actually find out until you actually fork out the money and install the shock in your vehicle, and then you can find out, oh, I don't like this, or yes, I do like this. Sometimes you can find information on the owner's forms and whatnot, but it's always, seat of the pants type deal. There is no such thing as concrete numbers about, hey, this shock is compressing at this rate with this much load applied to it per second or whatnot. It's really, really frustrating. So what I decided to do is I decided to go with the I wouldn't say the cheapest route possible, but basically the least expensive, because that will enable me to do two things: to find out basically if my line of thinking was correct, in a sense of I'm picking up this brand and this particular shock absorber, and if I make a mistake, I can easily change it, and I can do it on the budget, because as you can tell, most of the shocks are anywhere between $20, $30, $40, $50, something like that. The problem is if you go to the OEM replacements, the price goes very, very high, very, very steep. Mind you, these are Rock Auto prices, so they're excellent prices. If you like, you can find this in the AutoZone store or anything like that, or Napa. But for instance, let me find Delco for the front is $230. Okay, I mean that's original equipment, fine. I mean, and they did last 230,000 miles almost, so I cannot complain about that. But if you want to go to like specific ones with like a sack with a sash for rear, for outright suspension is 340. So you get my drift. Basically, uh, the dollar sign quickly adds on. So when I was researching that, the only one that actually put some effort into informing the owners, hey, this shock is going to be more comfy or less comfy, is actually KYBs. They do have the catalog available. You can plug everything in just like usual. That's not uncommon, and that's very common for the most vendors or manufacturers. The problem is, when I was doing the research, I found out that the gas adjust shocks that they recommend as an OEM replacement. This is the only one that's listed for the 2004 Z71 packaged Tahoe is gas adjust, which the KYBs said they're actually more firmer than stock. They have a little bit of a video going on, and in that video I'm not going to play it because of the copyrights and all that stuff, but I'm going to use it as there we go. Go away. Okay, so they have a nice little display basically going from XLG to gas adjust to their Rancho and Monroe Max. And if you go to the video, they will actually say that the XLG and the gas adjust are the stock replacements for the usual OM stuff, but they will actually mention that gas adjust is more firm, has more damping than XLG. And of course, you have the Ranchos and the Monomax that are actually more firm, or as they say, they actually word that as firmer ride, additional control, and increased steering response, which basically means you're going to be, jarring your fillings out of your teeth with that kind of ride. I do not want that. I want something that's nice and plush. Not the Cadillac ride, not the floaty ride, not the all on the corners ride, but something that's actually it's not going to be feeling like I am riding on a deflated set of tires, basically riding on rims. So original ride is what I was asking for, or even softer than that. When I was perusing the Monroe's catalog, not necessarily. You can also find these info anywhere on pretty much any of the vendors that will supply a variety of the shocks. But the problem I found out was that basically the KYBs for the fronts, they actually list two different part numbers for the front suspension for the same vehicle. So they'll have KYB 381, which is this one, and they will also list KYB 341343, I think this is the one, which is the same thing. There is absolutely no difference. Even if you go on a KYB website, it will actually have absolutely no difference in between the description. Same dimension, same everything. So I was curious about that. I actually emailed KYB about that, and this is kind of just a little blurb about that. Basically what I said is, hey, this is the description of a vehicle, this is the description of a problem, ride is a bit too firm and bouncy for my taste, description of the condition, truck is 90% used for personal transport, no load or towing, no off-road either, and suspension is translating a lot of small imperfections on the roads, such creases, small sharp bumps. Which one do you prefer? Which one would you recommend? Because your site lists through two different numbers. For sake of brevity, I'm going to call them 81 and 43. Regards, bleeped out me. KYB's credit, they respond very fast. But they ask me again, what year, model, submodel, and drive type is? I'm like, it's right there. Hello. I did supply them that. in nice bold letters, and basically re-ask them the same question with a little more simplified version of it. Which is firmer shock, 81 or 43? Their response that the 81 had a firmer damping. Sorry, the 43 has a firmer damping, and basically that was the end of that. The end of my quest is there. So basically, the KYB model number 344381 was the softest of their whole range, and basically the replacement for what I had in front. So my quest was over. I could go and I ordered that from another vendor, and basically a couple of weeks later I got my shocks in the mail. One additional part why I choose KYB instead of Gabriel and Monroe. I was reading about Monroe that it has a little bit of a quality issue that don't last as long. Plus, I do have Monroe sensor track on my wagon, and they're okay. So I want to try something else to kind of further my experiment, if you like. Plus, KYB was offering a rebate, so I got some money back, which was very nice. Next time, I guess if I'm not happy with these, I can switch to Gabriel's, or I can switch to let's see, what was the other one? Very popular one, Bilstein's, yes. The reason why I didn't want to go with Bilstein's because everybody who I read about, the Bilstein's were more firmer than stock, so that's why Bilstein's were never in my line of choice, if you like. So basically, I ordered the shocks. They arrived. I replaced them. It's very straightforward. There is nothing to it. You can also go and look it up how they changed. Very easy setup. No issues, no problems. And I was really looking forward to see how that panned out versus the old worn out stalkers. They were definitely at the end of their lifespan. Usually when you put in the new shocks, that really changes for better how the vehicle is behaving and how the ride is. So did that change? Well, let's wait and see, huh?
So you're gonna ask, did that all paid off? All that research and all that searching for the most comfortable shock? Answer is no. I can still feel every single bump. I can still feel almost every single crease that's upsetting the suspension in very almost like a tremor mode, if you like. The long sweeping curves, the undulations, they're handling quite nice. But I mean, it's ridiculous because it almost feels like a DTM car. Seriously, you can feel every little ripple on the pavement in the steering wheel. You can hear it in the suspension. You can feel how a truck is kind of getting bouncy. But I guess you're gonna say, well, hello, this is a truck chassis with a firmer suspension from the get-go, because it's supposed to be a off-road suspension, and truck does have 130,000 miles, so you know, be fair with it. And I am, and I'm not expecting Cadillac ride or Citroen ride whatsoever. That I agree with, but at the same time, I just don't understand why you cannot find a shock that's gonna be absorbing all those little ripples and then being firmer as the ripples progress. I guess two things I can do. I can either continue changing shocks every year, I guess, or I can make my own. Just go to the Bilstein and say, hey, make me a shock to my own specification and then pay up to my nose for that. Of course, that's not going to happen. But this was a successful experiment. I guess I'm not faulting KYBs. They are actually doing exactly what they claim to do. Basically, restore the ride quality to original specification, which I guess this is it. I just have to deal with it or get used to it, or carry around, I don't know, 300 pounds of cement constantly with me to dampen out those vibrations. But regardless of that, at least I'm happy that I don't have the old shocks, all worn out shocks on the truck. So at least that's a peace of mind. But apart from that, I guess I'm gonna keep looking, and that's it.